Today my guest is Chet Kloss. Chet, how are you?
I'm very good, Dave.
Chet, what do you do?
My title is CRM/XRM Technology Specialist. A technology specialist is a person that works with a technical person who works with a salesperson that helps customers understand what's possible with the product set.
Okay, and you work for Microsoft.
I work for Microsoft. I've been here 11 years.
And CRM stands for what?
It stands for Customer Relationship Management. That's an application that we sell under our Dynamics group. So its proper name is Dynamics CRM.
Okay, and XRM is sort of a variant on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. X, it stands for, like it does in math, the variable. It can be any sort of relationship management. So customer relationship management being the most popular, the most well-known, but there are lots of other relationship management applications and things that we build that are equally as important and applicable.
Okay, now I'm familiar a little bit with Microsoft CRM, the product, but I don't think most people, even people that use Microsoft products regularly, are familiar with that product. Is that a fair statement?
That is a very fair statement.
Let's change that today.
Indeed.
Let's talk about it.
Good man. We have in excess of 22,000 customers, about 1,100,000 users of Microsoft CRM, but in comparison to something like Office, that's still not all that big a number. Customer relationship management, as generally defined, is really around a view into your customer and how you work with that relationship. From the Microsoft perspective, using the tool Dynamics CRM, we focus on three main pillars of that relationship, starting with marketing, how do I reach prospective customers, and then Salesforce automation, how do I work with my Salesforce to maximize their productivity interaction with the customer, and then customer care, how do I continue my relationship with the customer so that our ongoing relationship and work together is productive and valuable to both parties. So marketing, sales, and what we call service for the customer care portion.
So how does the product help those three pillars?
In general, it allows you to leverage all the information you have and to build that database of information about a customer such that you can more meaningfully interact with them. So for instance, if a salesperson sends an email to a customer, or maybe gets an email from a customer asking them about a particular product or service, with one button click, we have a little button that's called Track in CRM. The tool will take that, let's say, email, examine the email address, decide whether or not it has this company listed, create a company record if it needs it, does it have this contact listed, create a contact record for what is needed, take the subject, break it down into what the email is about, and track that email throughout the CRM system. So now that information is available to anyone who has access and authority to look at that particular company or that particular contact. So whether it's in a marketing campaign or a follow-up sales campaign, we have that information, and it's just constantly building, all from the salesperson doing only one thing, just clicking a button. And one of the biggest issues for salespeople is that these tools can tend to be requiring them to do lots of work, which never goes over well. They want to sell, that's what they're good at. We don't want to tie them down with unnecessary work. So just by using the power of the tool and the power of relational databases, the .NET framework, we can build out what we get out of even that one simple click.
Okay, so the idea is that they're going to be sending emails anyway. That's part of their job. That's part of the way that they manage that relationship with the customers by communicating with them. And this tool is a way of helping them to manage that relationship with CRM.
Sure. Let me give you one more quick example of what they might do even from the marketing side for a salesperson. Lots of companies put out flyers about what their products do and what they are. And when they get a new product or a change to a product, they want their customers to be able to see that information. Through the CRM tool, all they need to do, for instance, is to drop a new piece of sales literature in the sales literature library. And then through workflow, which is part of CRM, the system can go through and target your selected users to get that piece of information in email tied maybe with a template email all with the salesperson only having to drag and drop that one document into their sales literature folder. That level of productivity increase really allows a single salesperson to do much more and to worry about it much less. Really, they can focus on their interaction with the customers.
Okay, and then that information also is stored and persisted in the SQL Server database somewhere.
It-
Some reporting engine for the people to review that later and find out what's happened so far.
Absolutely, it always lives in that database, and in fact, you can track and do analytics against what was the result of me sending that particular piece of email. And I can also do things like have rules set up. If I've already sent this customer 2 or 3 things this month, don't keep sending him things. Hold off. It can be a sort of a governor, if you will.
Sure. All right, so everything we've talked about so far is really just built right into the product. Install it right out of the box. You can manage relationships. You got one-click emails, recording the information about that email, workflow, and automatically sending out documents by dragging in there. But sometimes that's not enough. The customer wants more than what's in the box.
Sure.
How extensible is this application?
It's completely extensible, but I need to give you a little bit of history about the product
Okay.
first. So CRM is built on top of this development framework. What actually happened approximately 8 years ago, Microsoft acquired from a partner a set of technology for rapid application development. That product, combined with our own intellectual property, resulted in CRM. Basically, this application that we bought allowed developers to build applications quickly, to define entities, what we call a table in SQL Server, and relate those things together and build forms for input and reports against it, all without having to worry about what I refer to as the plumbing of the application. So me as the developer, I can focus on what does the end user need to see, what sort of processes do we need to model with this, but I don't have to worry as a developer, how many stored procedures do I need, what are the indexes that I need, what views need to be created, what's the relationships between the table. I can define them in a point-and-click method, and all the plumbing is handled in the background for me. That really speeds up development, and it's leveraged by every application that I build. So if I build 10 applications, or if I just build 1 or 2, I'm leveraging that framework every time. And the first demonstration application that we built with this framework was CRM 1.0. Since then, we've continued to enhance the framework and enhance the CRM application. And what we found is we've had sets of users that have made significant additions to the application, adding functionality, as you say, because every company is different, has different needs. And we've even had some companies that completely divorce the interface of CRM, build their own interface, and do things with it that are completely outside of what one would think of in customer relationship management. Hence the XRM. All those applications have a couple things in common. They're generally speaking relational database line of business applications. There's lots of data and data relationships in it. There's business process involved. CRM is built on top of Windows workflow. And one of the things that we generally want to do with a line of business application is to be able to define a work process and then look at the results of it. Do the same thing more than once. One of the biggest issues when you're trying to improve is to be able to do something more than once, because I can't improve on something I only do once, by definition. So by defining it in workflow, modeling those business processes, we can look at how work is being performed and make significant and appropriate changes to our business to really get better at the things we do to be more productive. And that's really what the framework allows us to do, is to use all those pieces that help us define the plumbing, but yet still give us access to a complete .NET development environment.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about how a developer sees this product here. You mentioned a couple of scenarios there. One was when you wanted to change the user interface. So let's say I wanted to build a nice, pretty Silverlight application on top of this. But I still want to utilize, take advantage of the databases and the workflows that you're providing. How do I access those from my Silverlight or from my mobile phone or whatever?
So there are web services defined that basically allow us to get access to the functionality of the application. There's really 3 that we use most often, and really one of those probably 90% of the time. There's one for discovery that allows us to understand what the main entity and where the main data is stored. There's one for discovering the metadata, because when we define an entity, the system creates lots of stored procedures, indexes, views behind it, gives us access to all those. And then there's the third one that I use most often, which is for the physical retrieving data, doing updates, creating information. So I literally have access to 100% of the functionality of the application through those web services.
Okay.
But I'm completely decoupled from my interface.
So you build a new interface, or you can plug it into your existing application and call it without an interface, without a user interface.
That's correct.
And the other thing you mentioned was the workflow. Let's say I'm not happy with the way the workflow, or I want to enhance that workflow that's built into the product. How do I add my rules to that?
Certainly. So we have access to the workflow designer within the product. It allows a business analyst to define complex workflows. But me as a developer, if I want to add additional functionality, I can create something called a plugin.
So let me just back up a second here. Out of the box, you have some sort of workflow designer
Yes.
that's geared toward a non-technical person.
Yeah, it's really focused on a business analyst, a person who understands the business problem,
Okay.
but is not a developer.
Got it. Okay. And so if there are some pieces you can sort of drag and drop or plug in or configure without writing code that they can do, and if that piece doesn't exist, that's when a developer would
That's
step
when a developer might come
Okay.
in to add the functionality. They can build a plugin in any .NET development language that they like,
Okay.
and that DLL can come over and add functionality, can become part of what we call that pipeline. Now, because that Windows Workflow is built on top of Windows Workflow, it really is Windows Workflow. If you have existing workflows that you use maybe in SharePoint or other things, we can, of course, graft into or graft out of those existing workflows. So you can really have quite an integrated application into your entire enterprise environment.
Okay. You mentioned SharePoint. Now, SharePoint's a very popular product.
Indeed.
What are some of the hooks between CRM and SharePoint?
So almost every CRM or XRM application uses SharePoint. SharePoint is, we think, the best tool for the storage and retrieval of non-relational data. So one very common use of SharePoint in an XRM scenario, I'll give you a real-life example. There is a partner of ours that built an application for the federal government to manage the complaints from prisoners in federal prison. And for each complaint, then
Wait, those people have complaints?
they have complaints.
Go figure.
And we have to acknowledge them, and we have to act on every single one.
Okay.
So when a new complaint is entered into the system, a small SharePoint site is spun up for all the documentation related to that particular complaint. And so that SharePoint site lives in the CRM application and looks just like another frame in CRM, blends in completely. And we constantly move data back and forth between the two products as they interact. They really work very well together.
Okay. And just talk really briefly about just the licensing.
So this is one of the real features of the product. CRM and the XRM framework is really designed around really for those companies that have a need for a number of line of business applications. And most companies that I know do. But when you license the product, it's per user. And so each user has one CRM license. But you as a developer can build any number of line of business applications for that customer. And they just need the one user license per user.
Okay.
So whether they run one app or 100 apps, it's the same price. And to maintain it, what we maintain is the CRM application, which then by its nature is maintaining
So
all
to answer
the
your
hundreds
question,
of other
Gene, yes, it
line
is.
of business applications that you currently have deployed there.
Okay. Hey, we're just about out of time. Where can people find out more about this if they want to learn?
So the best place to learn about CRM in general is dynamics.microsoft.com. And there's many links to CRM information. But I would like to give you the name for the developers out there of perhaps the gentleman who's identified as maybe the premier XRM developer is a gentleman named David Yak. works for, I believe it's Colorado Technologies. And if you just, Yak is Y-A-C-K, if you just do a Bing search on David Yak, you'll pull up his blogs. He also has quite a good book on developing for CRM called the CRM book, which I would definitely recommend. So, dynamics.crm.com or Bing David Yak.
And where do people find out more about Chet Kloss?
You can reach me on almost any social network looking for that name, Chet Kloss, one word, CHETKLOSS. But I do have another one, Chet Kloss XRM.
That's a Twitter
on
account?
Twitter account that specifically revolves around XRM sorts of things.
Chet, thanks so much. I really appreciate your time.
It's great to talk to you, David.
Very interesting stuff.
Thanks. Well, I like to hang out with a group of friends that are frankly pretty technology illiterate because given my overinflated sense of self-worth, it really makes me feel superior.